this is the first time. This is the Model T of electric cars.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and say that. Now, okay.
Agreed. And look, I'll be honest, it concerns me because I'm a little bit anti-EV, at least in the way they're perceived currently versus their actual outcomes in the next few years. I'm not anti-EV just downright, while they're not as entertaining to drive. They do have their place. I think this is the first one that I look at and I go, I can't even argue with this very much because it looks like it's just a good package.
Hello, welcome to Brake Check. I'm Craig.
And I'm Brian.
And we're back. It's been a while. Brian, we've been busy. We've had a Texas Auto Riders Roundup. We've had podcasts we've been doing with some other state channels out there. We've had some auto shows. We've had some cars. We've got a lot to talk about.
We've got a lot to get there, and I think we might miss some things still.
Oh, we're going to miss some things, but that's okay. We've got more podcasts coming. So let's just get into it. What we got on tonight's agenda, we've got what we've been driving lately. We've got the Hyundai Santa Cruz has come out since our last podcast. And we talked about the Santa Cruz on our previous podcast. What were we right on? What were we right about? Let's dive into that. And, oh, by the way, something happened last night, Brian.
Was there a storm? Did something strike last night?
I don't know if you heard the thunder, but there was definitely some lightning. We're going to talk about that. And then we've also got maybe our favorite segment, Fun with Comments.
Oh, yes. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, it's too good. And again, our viewers have just continued to bless us with and gift us with more comedy there. So we'll get into that. So first, Brian, let's dig into what we've been driving lately, or what we've drove most recently, at least. That is the 2021 all-new Kia Sorento SX Turbo all-wheel drive X-Line. I think I got them all. Did I get them all?
I think you got it all. I'll bring the colors up. It was Aruba green with rust leather interior.
Ooh, did that? Okay, let's just start there. Let's just start there.
It's a win. There's no losing with that out of the gate.
Yes. And let's start with the appearance, the looks, exterior, interior. Just your thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of body panels and overall design, it looks like a handsome crossover, right? Like this is not an Aston. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna. It's not Mona Lisa. Thank goodness. It's just a crossover, right?
Right.
But that color combo complements it so well, and actually cleaned up some of the more busy styling that I wasn't totally crazy about.
That's a good point.
Some of the panels, nothing was obtuse, nothing was bad. But sometimes crossovers get so excited about being crossovers and not being sedans that they just can't. They bulge out of their fenders, Craig. They can't help themselves.
That's a good point. Or they overstyle trying to look outdoorsy because they're overcompensating for not really being outdoorsy. So
okay. While we're on that note, this was the X line, and I'm really glad you brought this up early. This car was kind of like nonchalant. I'm outdoorsy, y'all. Look, I've got X-Line trim. I'm an inch taller in ride height, and I am green. But then you look down and you're like, you've got all-season 20-inch wheels with all-season tires. You've got a low air dam on the front. You're not going on anything that serious, right? So it's like we're going to check the box. We're not that concerned about it because we know you're not either as a consumer. So they really kind of nailed it. And look, it ended up being. I'll just get the dynamics, Craig. It was fun. It was fun for what it was. It's one of those cars that on day one I was like, eh. And I'll let you jump in here. I think you were the same way. But as I drove it for a few days, I was like, I think we were sleeping on this. We need to give this a chance again. And by the time it was all said and done, I liked it.
Oh, agreed. I commend Kia for their styling, not making everything look the same. It doesn't look like a Russian nesting doll. On the exterior, it doesn't. However, on the interior, every Kia feels and looks almost exactly the same, and drives me a little crazy. I guess I understand all the advantages and benefits to that, but I don't know. We get in and out of them all the time, and so it irritates us more than probably the average Joe. But
yeah, and we end up in a lot of Hyundais and Kias just by virtue of what's in the fleet, the press fleets. And actually, I think when we first got this car, you called me and said, "Well, how is it?" And I said, "Well, it feels like a Kia, yeah." And so we at first we kind of like, oh, okay, and we didn't give him much credit, and then it grew on both of us, I believe.
Right. Well, and I will say this: you don't sleep on it. It grew on us. And what grew on us is the powertrain. That
Yes.
2.5 turbo and the
Is-
8-speed dual clutch transmission. And you can give what's the details of that dual clutch? Wet clutch, something I don't know.
It's
What's
a
all that?
twin. It's a twin clutch, like most of them, but the clutch packs are wet, which means they're bathed in oil. And there's some pervy jokes in there if you want to find them, but really, what it means is that there's two discs that are not going to chatter on you when you're doing like the slow around town stuff, and that's where DSG gearboxes or twin clutch gearboxes of yesteryear, that was their drawback. In stop and go, they felt like, oh, this is not a torque converted auto. Obviously, something's going on here. Whereas this one, if you told me this was just an automatic, I would have believed you. If I never got on it and never felt the glory of a dual clutch on the top end, down low, there was zero drawback.
Right. Yeah. And to me, that was its home run. They have figured out this thing. And as far as the transmission and powertrain goes, the automatic, a traditional torque converted automatic, you have the downside of slow shifting and not the best performance.
Yes.
In a CVT, you get the downside of the whine and the weird awkwardness of the whole thing and rubber bandy effect, and that's annoying. In a typical DSG or twin clutch, you have the herky jerky going on.
Yes.
This, blended all of that and shifted quick, performed fast, wasn't herky jerky. It was the best of everything.
Yeah, I think it minimized all those drawbacks and achieved almost all the ups of those different transmissions.
Right.
It's really the sweet spot, and for the masses, a really big home run. I just think it's that our people in the media market here, not everyone gives that thing enough credit. It's a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, and I agree. That's completely overlooked by Kia. And Hyundai. They completely. This is a big, bold move for them to do in a mass market car, and they're doing it in a bunch of their cars. This 8-speed twin clutch,
Yeah.
and it's
the Kia K5 had the same twin clutch.
It's a bold move to put that in there, and they've done a good job with it. And most people won't notice it, and that's why it'll be so good. That's the secret sauce of it. You won't notice it,
right?
But it's really good, and so that's impressive.
Yeah, bravo Kia. And one more thing on this, we did decide for some reason to film this episode during a tornado.
That's right.
So I believe when we were filming our intro, some law enforcement rolled up on us and first asked us if we were storm chasers, and then second said, when we told him no, we're filming a car review, and looked really confused, he said, okay, cool, there's a cyclone right behind you in that cloud if you want to get that too. And
very helpful. Thanks, Granbury PD.
Very helpful, as of which we wrapped that as quick as we could and jumped in the car and ran to a car wash to avoid the massive hailstorm that came down immediately after. So.
Yeah, we just missed that. It was good timing. But what helped us get to that was the 2.5 turbo.
Yes, we got there very quick.
That's the other thing I want to mention, because now maybe not the best fuel mileage. I am going to mention that, because that's still a little bit of a bothersome for me in that type of car and what it's trying to be. But we recently reviewed another 2.5 turbo crossover, namely the Mazda CX-9. And
I thought you meant the Mazda 3, Craig. I couldn't tell. They're basically
we realized okay. Get off your Mazda 3 hatred. You're ridiculous. But I want to give you a bone here. So we realized when we got in this Kia Sorento, this is the better competitor to the Mazda CX-9 than the Telluride.
Right. No, you're totally right.
The natural comparison is the Telluride versus CX-9, because they're both the biggest cars that both those cars make. But the Mazda CX-9 is just not that big, and the Sorento is a third row, and interior space is probably much closer.
Yeah, I think you called that out right away, and you're absolutely right. When we did the CX-9 and Telluride comparison, I think we got it wrong. Just because that's the biggest thing Mazda made at the time doesn't mean it's a Telluride, right? And that's not. It wasn't fair to compare the two.
Yeah. But that 2.5 turbo in the CX-9, completely different than the 2.5 turbo in the Kia. So, and the Kia one's a lot better. That's all I'm saying.
And look, I want to take some credit here, Craig, because I brought this up right away when we had the CX-9, and I said, this being a 2.5 liter turbo shouldn't feel the way that it does. And you brought up some valid points about it. They had to pick turbo or horsepower and that kind of stuff. And while they did make that choice, I still argue they didn't have to exclusively pick one over the other. And that's what Kia proved with their 2.5 turbo. Same displacement, same amount of volume coming in and out of it. It made more power. It came on just as early, or at least felt just as early as the Mazda's turbo, and never fell off. All the way to Redline, never fell off of the power band. So impressive. I just really didn't expect that from Kia. Usually the Germans would get that done, and actually Mazda of yesteryear would have picked that route as well. So it's interesting the way that those two came out.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you real quick. We've driven basically all the Kia SUVs now.
Right. Minus the Sportage. Yeah.
Minus the Sportage. Telluride or Sorento?
Man, that's really hard because midweek I said, oh, Telluride, obviously. And then by the time I was done with the Sorento, I was like, this thing rips. It's awesome. And it's a shorter wheelbase, so it's more fun more of the time. Okay, for me, Sorento. For my wife, Telluride.
Okay. Sorento or Seltos?
Seltos for me, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm about right there with you. I would choose the Telluride over the Sorento in my book.
Okay.
But then if you narrowed it down to Telluride or Seltos, for me and my daily drive, I would get the Seltos. Now, if I was, it would also have to do double duty as a family car.
Yeah.
I would definitely stick with the Telluride. I think that's just an all-around better family car.
The reality, and you and I in our day-to-day, it's usually us in the car. So justifying the biggest three-row is kind of harder to do. And
right.
And the value proposition of the Seltos versus its ability / its really sneakily fun to drive characteristics, that's hard to ignore. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Okay, so let's stick to the Hyundai Kia family.
Okay.
And let's talk about the 2022 Hyundai Santa Cruz.
Okay.
We talked about this on a previous podcast, and it's been announced. It's out. We've seen pictures. We've got all the specs on it. No one's driven one yet, and no one's. We don't have official pricing yet, and some other details, but it's coming. Brian, this is a new type of vehicle. Can you guess what type of vehicle it is?
It's a Ute.
Wrong. It's not a Ute.
Okay.
It's not an SUV. It's not a CUV. It's not a. I don't know what else you can come up with.
Ooh. Is it a cross utility truck?
No. I don't know. Stop. Just stop.
Oh, okay.
Stop. It's a sport adventure vehicle. It's an SAV. Can you keep up with all these acronyms?
No. Look, we're in this business, and I can't keep up.
But are they right? Is it a sport adventure vehicle?
Well, sure, but
or is it a truck?
But so is a Fiesta ST. If you rip the side skirts off, like that can be an adventure too.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why they've called it this, because you know what it does, Brian? It shatters both the SUV and truck segments, creating an entirely new vehicle category.
You're literally reading the pamphlet again, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just telling you what it says. So
okay.
Do you think it does that?
I don't think it shatters much, but I think it's going to be a segment starter because they got theirs out before the Ford Maverick.
And I think this is actually a pretty good question. So the Honda Ridgeline, this Hyundai Santa Cruz, the upcoming Ford, what is that called? Maverick?
The Maverick, yep.
Are these different segments? Are they just smaller trucks? To me, they're just like car-based trucks, or as the rest of the world calls them, Utes.
Yes. Or I'm gonna look. I struggle with. Let's take it to Ford real quick. So you think about the current Ranger and the Maverick concept. The Maverick is based on what the Bronco Sport is. Yep. Okay, so in terms of width, track width, and that kind of stuff, if you put a Bronco Sport next to a Ranger, it's not much narrower.
Mm-mm.
So I look at the two and I kind of go, the Ranger's not particularly big.
No,
there's no part of the Ranger where I go, oh, that's too big. I'm not driving that. And there's never a part where I go, I wish I had a smaller one.
Right.
So I think the market they're shooting for is they're going to keep calling it this sport activity vehicles. What do you call it? A SAV? A SAVE?
I guess. I don't know.
They're going to call it that, but really what it's for is the urbanite that still wants to get 35 miles a gallon, because that's what the Ranger won't do. Yeah. And they want to be able to park it like a car. They want to be able to put in the 2 bags of sand or mulch.
This is not going to get 35 miles a gallon, but
no, I know.
I think it's interesting though, because they got themselves stuck in this weird segment of they can't call it an SUV because it doesn't have a back hatch.
Right.
I think the reason they don't want to call it, or car manufacturers don't want to call it a truck, is because it is car based and small, and it's
It
gonna have
can
a floor
only
popper.
it can only tow so much, right?
It's not going to really be able to do trucky things. And the moment you call it a truck, there's going to be this immediate comparison of, well, that's just a baby truck. And they don't want the baby truck stigma, right?
Right.
So I think it's a good idea of what Hyundai's trying to call it, the sport adventure vehicle thing, but I just don't know if the market will accept it. I know where I operate in my daily life, that's going to be called a baby truck. So
Right. Well, look, in our region, the state of the truck in Texas, they're everywhere, right? They multiply, I think. I wake up every day, there's more trucks on the road.
one out of every 4 F-150s is sold in Texas.
That's just insane because that's the number one selling vehicle
Right.
in the country. So that's just
Right.
that's our per capita ratio. There's like a truck
Right.
per every 3 feet, right?
Yeah.
But I will argue that, and this is a arbitrary number I just picked out of the sky, 60%, 65% of truck owners, average consumers, don't have enough truck duty to be too much for one of these smaller trucks, for
Absolutely.
the Maverick or for the Santa Cruz. So the Santa Cruz and the Maverick are going to do everything that at least 65% in my mind of the market uses their truck for today. Right. So look, there's a place there for it. But here, and I'm going to stick to what we said originally about these small trucks. I'm super excited about them. Mm-hmm. But when gas is $2.50 a gallon, there's just not enough warranty to get it done. It's just full size trucks when they're marked down, non-COVID times, they're a great value. And so I don't think there's a ton of people that are going to go, they're going to pick the smaller one unless they have to.
It's interesting. I think it's really neat. We love
I love
the Seltos and Sorentos. It's going to be similar to those vehicles, drive similar to those, except you're going to have a bed to throw crap in that doesn't stink up your cab. Where you're driving, and so that's the advantage of a truck. That's what you don't get in an SUV. The other day I had to get some stuff that would have stunk up my car. Had it been inside it, but I had a truck. I threw it in the back. I didn't have to smell it. It was great.
Or just going to get gas for your mower, right? Like you don't want to put it in the trunk of your car if you have a pickup.
Yeah,
bed,
that's
right?
a great example. Of course, as people go electric, maybe that's less of an issue. So
that's true.
Okay, so let's get into what is the Santa Cruz. What were we right about? What were we wrong about? So we predicted we were leaning towards more a Santa Fe. We were leaning towards the
in terms of sizing and chassis?
In terms of, we were thinking direct ridgeline competitor, Santa Fe size.
Right.
We thought maybe a 2.4 naturally aspirated in the base models, that sort of thing. Well, actually, I think it might have. I'd have to look into that. But we didn't think we'd get the engine we got. We'll get into that in a second. And we were also predicting and hoping for, we talked about the things we were hoping for. We were hoping for a real off-road version, an actual, some sort of, an FX4-like or AT4-like, some sort of off-road trim, which I guess we're kind of right on some of these and kind of wrong on some of these. So do you want to get into that or talk about specs? What do you want to do?
Let's quickly hit that. I think the biggest thing that and first of all, I came across one of these in the wild about a month before the truck was released.
You did, yep.
There was one on an open transport semi truck, being hauled through Fort Worth, Texas, and I ended up snapping photos and sending it to you. I was like, "Craig, look at this!" And you go, "What is this?" And it was a Santa Cruz cladded up, and it had the camo fabric all over it that they do on the concept vehicles. And I got close enough to see the center cap of the wheel because the shape was obviously a compact. It looked unibody from what I could tell because it didn't look full frame. I couldn't see frame rails underneath it. And its silhouette. And I got closer and saw the Hyundai logo on the wheel that was exposed. And I immediately thought this is a lot smaller than I thought it was. It is not a Ridgeline. It is definitely closer to, less than a Santa Fe. Closer to
the Tucson.
Right?
Yep.
And you found that out for us. What's the knowledge there, Craig?
And so it's based on, it's closer to the Tucson / Sportage size. In fact, it's interesting because in all our press release stuff from Hyundai, every time you see a truck release, you talk about how it's bigger, bolder, faster, stronger, all this crap, right?
Right.
Hyundai made a point to actually highlight, and they've got it compared to a Tacoma, a Ridgeline, and a Frontier, how much smaller it is than those. So It's actually the same width as a Tacoma, a little bit wider than a Frontier, but narrower than a Ridgeline. It's shorter than all of them. It's got a shorter wheelbase than all of them. And so its total footprint is the smallest out of all of them. And they're trying to make a point how it's got a good curb-to-curb turning radius of only 20 feet. It's easy to drive in town. They're really talking up the urban maneuverability of this, not truck, but sport activity vehicle.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. You know, I'm glad it exists. I'm looking forward to where it's going to go. I kind of feel like if this came out in 99 or 2000, it would be comparable to an Isuzu V-Cross. It'd be that radical to people. Because it just doesn't look like a normal truck, right? It's unibody. There's no, like, even the Ridgeline is a fake bed line between the cab and the bed itself. They're not faking that here. They're going, no, this is unibody. This is a smaller urban pickup kind of deal. But I can see it, you know, if you're mountain biking, throw a bike back there. If you've got your dog, you can do that stuff. There's going to be a ton of accessories. I think it's pretty cool. And I think the exciting news of it, Craig, is it's going to have that same 2.5 turbo we've been praising.
Yeah, that thing we just got done talking about is in this. 2.5 turbo is available. You can get a 2.5 naturally aspirated, but it gets you get that 8-speed.
The dual clutch,
dual clutch, and the H-track all-wheel drive, which is good for a crossover.
And it has the torque vector and rear end. It's a valid all-wheel drive system. It's really good.
80% and 90% of the people that go off-roading or adventuring, this will do whatever it needs to do.
And we've experienced the system, Craig, in multiple cars now. We've gotten wheels in the air on several of them, and it actually locks the rear diff and it actually gets itself through stuff. Like it's valid, and I think that engine in what is actually lighter and smaller than the Sorento is going to be even more fun.
What's interesting, and I think what the Hyundai's figured out and the other car manufacturers are figuring out, is this whole adventure ability of a vehicle craze, or this overlanding craze, this get out in nature craze with your car, is on fire right now. And this vehicle is basically geared just towards that, and they're trying to strike on that. And so, did they time it right? Are they too late? Does it hit those things right, or do people actually want more the legitimate off-road ability? I don't know. I'm curious. Let me ask you this: do you think this will be a hit or a dud for Hyundai?
I think it will, by and large, be a dud. I think it'll be canceled in probably 4 or 5 years. But I hope it is a wild success. And here's the other deal. I don't think the overlandy, outdoors, get outside adventure segment, I don't think that's disappearing for at least 5 years. I'm maybe 10. But the styling of this vehicle is not, and look, I'm gonna say it, there's not enough cladding on the side of it. It doesn't look adventure-y enough. It looks too well done and too urbanite. I think a lot of people aren't going to take it as off-road as it really can go. So I think they've kind of missed the mark. They could have gone more outdoorsy with the styling. Like, look at the current Impreza Wilderness. That thing is just covered in Rubbermaid, and it just looks like it's ready.
What they didn't achieve, it looks good. It looks like a Tucson with a bed, but it doesn't look like the Bronco Sport does.
There you go. That's what I'm really getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like if the Bronco Sport looked like the Escape. No one would like, well, that's not an outdoor adventure vehicle. But you make the Escape bold and squared off. You have to square these things off. That's what they do with the Bronco Sport.
Totally.
And now all of a sudden, that's an adventure vehicle.
Look, people call us all the time and say, I saw a Bronco today, and we have to explain to them that it's just the Sport. They've gotten the image thing right, and that's where Ford will keep selling those for the next 10 years. And I honestly think, I'm going to call a prediction now, I think and hope that you buy a Santa Cruz because it has your name all freaking over it.
I don't know. I struggle. Here's my struggle. And here's why I think it won't take off. The same reasons you mentioned. I don't think it'll be a complete dud. I think it's a little bit more on the dud side, but not on the hit side for sure.
Yeah,
and
maybe not dud. Dud's not the right word for that, but it's not going to be a wild success, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Reason being is because as good as it is and as hot as the adventure segment is, I get it. It keeps running the same problem. Why get this over like a Ford Ranger or a Tacoma that actually don't get that much worse of mileage compared to this?
Right.
And those actually have 2-speed transfer cases and a frame you can actually go off it. I'm like, what's the trade-off? What's the advantage to this? If it got 30 miles to the gallon, I'm with you. That makes sense.
Right,
but it's not going to get that.
It's going to get
mid-20s. So then why?
The reason why is because it drives like a Tucson. And
I understand that. But
some people get in Rangers and go, "Why is this so bouncy?" Although the new Ranger's pretty good. But some people get in these and go, "Oh, well, I wish it drove more like a car." Like there is a market there for that, but that's not a huge market. So I don't think it's going to be truck successful.
Well, and as much as we think that matters, the ride and drive of a car, and you think it would matter more, what happens though is people buy Wranglers and drive them on the street because they look cool and they drive terrible on the street. Okay?
Oh yeah,
I just don't know if that matters much. So.
No, that's probably true, but I feel like the retirees are going to love this and they're going to buy a ton of them, and they're going to be non-turbo, they're going to be two-wheel drive, and they're going to love them. But it's not going to be a Jeep club. There's not going to be one of those. There's not going to be a Santa Cruz club that goes to an adventure park. It's just not going to happen.
Whoa! Hey, did you see that flash of light?
Oh,
wait!
I heard some thunder.
Oh man! You know what that means?
Oh God, we're doing this.
Oh yeah, it's happening. Brian, I don't know if you saw it last night, but it was live at 8:30 Central Time. I had it wrong. I thought it was 9:30.
Yeah,
you watched it live at 8:30 Central Time. And here's what Ford did. I want to explain how they rolled this out before we talk about this vehicle. First off, they hit on the American theme. They were in Detroit with an American name, Bill Ford, the great-great-grandson himself of Henry Ford.
Yep.
Followed by the African-American UAW president, Union Strong, Labor, the worker. Followed by the chief engineer, an Asian-American female. And then they finally brought out the boring white CEO, okay?
Yes.
All while introducing an electric vehicle. Did they hit all the marks in this rollout?
They made Detroit a melting pot for that hour, for sure.
I was impressed.
They nailed it. Look, I'm just going to put it out there. We praise Dodge's marketing campaigns all the time. I'm going to praise Ford's rollout campaigns. They've got the best. Remember the Bronco?
They got the hype machine going. They know how to hype something.
Yeah. The Bronco rollout was amazing. I put a deposit down that night. I fought in line on the internet to get a deposit down on the Bronco. And the thing's still not here yet. That was a year ago, Craig. It's almost a year ago, and it's still not here yet. And but the hype is still there, right? There's forums that are already established for the Bronco. There's already people measuring on CAD from a photograph of how big the rear storage bay is and that kind of stuff. Like they've got it going. They did the same thing with the Lightning, and they nailed it. They did a great job.
And so let's mention what we rolled out, because I don't know if we mentioned it yet.
Oh yeah, let's get into that.
What they introduced is the 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. So in case you weren't sure what that was, that's what they talked about. So,
and let me give a little history. The Lightning was, some would argue, the first sport truck that Ford accidentally invented, which was really just a sport package, appearance package with a little bit lower suspension with a 5.8 liter pushrod V8. It wasn't fast, but at the time it was fast for the time, I guess, or sporty for the time.
Yeah, and it was Radwood cool, baby.
It was Radwood cool, and then General Motors came out with the 454 SS to compete with it, and was a little faster, if we're honest, but didn't handle quite as well.
We had the Dakota RT a few years later.
Yes, we did. And then the second generation Lightning came out with a supercharged 5.4.
And that thing was actually freaking fast.
Freaking fast. Awesome. I still look at those and go, before I die, I'm going to have one of those. And look, I'm not a sport truck guy. I think they're an oxymoron in their existence. They make no sense. Like lowering a truck is like, I don't know, wearing ice skates in the desert. Just like, what are you doing? You know, it makes no sense at all. Mm-hmm. And I see it and I go, that's the coolest thing I've seen in all day, most likely. And, it's amazing. And it makes the right sound. It had side exhaust, blah, blah, blah. Right. Let's go to the next generation F-150. And Ford realized that they couldn't make the heavier chassis from 04, 05 and up as fast as the second gen. And so they made the Ford Raptor. They said, we can't go fast. Let's go over everything. And they did that. Mm-hmm. And which is also a hoot and a great vehicle. So Ford has now said, look, I know how to make this thing fast. Let's put electric motors front and back. Mm-hmm. And so what we have, and I'm just going to run down some quick specs. Correct me if I'm on these, Craig.
Go for it. hang on. Before you go down those, I do want to talk about part of this rollout, and then let's get into the specs.
Oh, okay.
The day before it rolls out,
Oh.
President Biden,
Yes.
and I don't want to get into politics, whether you hate him or love him or whatever, but Uncle Joe or Houseplant or whoever, President Biden shows up at the Ford plant, Rouge,
Dearborn.
Dearborn, the Rouge Ford plant, and then he's
the Rouge plant, yeah.
You know, in a typical presidential visit, all the presidents do this. This is not a partisan thing, and he's doing the normal. Oh yeah, great. That's asking questions, and so then at the end of the day, though, he does this like little press conference and just really trying to push the electric vehicle platform and how it's good for America and the world and all that business. So, but at the end of the day, he goes, "Hey, I'm a car guy. Everybody knows he has a vet.
He has the vet, the Stingray, yeah.
Yep. I'm a car guy. Let's go drive the thing." And no one knew he was going to do that. Like I was reading up on it today. Like it really caught Ford off guard. It caught the Secret Service off guard. They're like, and he's like, "No, I'm not joking. I want to go drive it." And so the whole press is there because they're interviewing him for the press about the tour.
The press pool was there. Yep.
So they go out on a skid pad. He's like, okay. So they take him out to a skid pad. And they get one that's covered in the camouflage. And It's funny because like the press that's there, they don't cover cars. They don't even know what the camo is. They're like, why does that car look like camo? Is it going to look like that when it comes out?
Right.
And Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford's like, no, that's just camo. It's not. Of course, it's not going to look like that.
Wrong kind of press, not motor press.
And they give him an F-150 with just a Secret Service guy. No Ford guys in the truck with him.
Yep, exactly.
And Jim Farley tells Biden, "Hey, just mash the pedal," and so he does. and it takes off. It does
the electric car thing.
It does the electric car thing. And he comes back and he goes, "Man, that thing's quick." And he said something about 0 to 60 in 4.4. And they're like, "Hey, we haven't released that yet." He's like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that." So, anyways, pretty neat. Quite the experience for all the Ford people and the Secret Service, it sounds like. The bad news, Jim Farley said, is, look, I had to ride in the presidential limousine, which is a General Motors product, and it's the first time we've ever allowed one here on the skid pad. So,
man, that's
pretty funny.
That's a real, Lincoln's still out there. That's all I'm saying. Government, I'm just telling you, it's still there.
So, anyways, okay, no, but getting into the specs, I wanted to mention that because the 0 to 60 times. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and on that note, what he actually said to another reporter when he pulled up, they said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "The truck's fast as hell." And then he goes, "Oh, I can't say that."
Yeah, it was neat because I'm watching the highlight of this and I'm like, wait, presidents can drive?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, I guess they can. Of course, why not?
Well, according to the Secret Service, they can't.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny about this whole thing is if they knew Biden wanted to drive it, they would have restructured their rollout, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, look, every automotive journalist in the country wants to drive this thing.
Yeah.
And only the president, leader of the free world, could say, "I'm driving that truck today." And
Right.
Ford goes, "Okay." And guess what
Right.
happened? They also, because of the press conference and the way they had cameras set up with Biden in the room, the uncladded version was exposed in the background.
Yeah, it got revealed before it's revealed.
Exactly. And the 0 to 60 times from the president himself, right? And no one else can get away with this. Like, if you and I did this with a Ford vehicle, they would say, "By the way, you're never getting a press car again from us." Yeah. Right? That would be a problem.
Yeah.
So anyways, it was interesting. I thought it was pretty cool that the leader of the free world was giving us our leaks for automotive content that day. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun because normally I'm not going into politics. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get out of that. So anyways, that's a deep pool. Let's just not go there.
Yeah.
So back to the truck. And here's what really took me off guard. Anyone that's listened to this podcast, anyone that knows me personally knows that I'm not particularly excited about electric cars. They just, I acknowledge they have their place in urban settings. In fact, they're the best tool for that job right now. But we live in a rural environment. They just don't really work for us day to day. So I just don't get excited about them. Cybertruck comes out, feels like an Elon stunt, whatever. I just don't care. I literally don't care about it. This comes out and I go, wait a minute. This looks like an F-150. It doesn't look ridiculous. And then they show the video where the hood is now just a massive 400-pound capacity trunk in the front end. And you go, well, wait a minute. Now instead of that being full of petrol-powered awesomeness, it's more storage, more utility, right? So you've added utility to an already utilitarian vehicle.
And all of a sudden, you don't need the little toolbox in the back.
Now you don't need the ram box thing, right? You don't need the toolbox or any of that kind of stuff. And you just have an open bed, and you kind of go, okay, there's a function proposition here. Let's keep listening.
Mm-hmm.
Electric cars are supposed to be fast. This one's 0 to 60 in 4.5 or 4.4. It'll probably be a little bit less than that, but that's Mustang GT numbers. That's pretty good.
It's incredible.
And it's giant, by the way.
And that's in the extended range battery version, which makes 563 horsepower, and they both make 775 pound-feet of torque.
Which is impressive for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, the lower powered one is still in the 400s, right?
Yeah, it's 426
horsepower. Yeah, that's a lot. That's still a lot. Look, my Raptor has 411 on premium fuel, so that's pretty good. And you kind of go, okay, well, what's going on? I go, look, this is going to cost 80, 90 grand, right? They go, no, it's starting at 39.9.
Yeah, less than 40, and I'm good for Ford because everybody immediately goes, okay, but that's the one nobody wants, and they gave us pricing on the XLT mid-level trim, which is what they'll sell 53? The most of. Yeah, 52,000. Yeah, 52, 53. Yeah,
which is exactly what a gas-powered one goes for. Mm-hmm. And that's what's phenomenal to me is because if you and I play with the truck configurators all the time, if you want a 5-liter V8 or a 3.5 EcoBoost or even a 2.7 EcoBoost in 4-door 4x4, it's 40 or more. Yep. Right? It's 40 no matter, with rebates, it's 40 grand with the smallest engine, and we're talking XL trim here.
Yeah.
So it tells me that they've made this thing not priced ridiculous. It doesn't look ridiculous. And for most people that drive 50 or less miles a day, it works for them. So
and right now, because Ford hasn't made enough electric vehicles yet, they do qualify for the $7,500 tax credit.
Yes.
So now all of a sudden it's the same, or maybe a little bit cheaper than a gas one. Although the gas ones you can get discounts probably about the same, and the real world money probably makes it the exact same.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the thing too is if you want to go to GM and get the electric Hummer, it's going to be 70, 80,000 starting, right? And then you go look at the Rivian XT1 or whatever it's called. It's probably going to be more than that too. I haven't seen pricing from them yet, but I anticipate it being in the 70s.
To be fair, the one they showed at the reveal last night, the Platinum model, and that's in most of their B-roll videos, is probably the $90,000 version. So you still can get a $90,000 one of these if you want.
Probably, but you can already get an $80,000 gas one.
Absolutely.
So,
we drove one the other day. It was that was 70.
Yeah, it's bonkers. And I'm sitting here, I'm going, in $70,000 trucks in Texas, it's pretty normal. It's not, so I saw this all of a sudden and went, oh man, the take rate on this is going to be better than I thought it was. Because it's compelling, right? I look at it and I go, if you're not a gearhead, you just want it to be fast. You don't even care that it's electric. You just want it to be fast and be a little bit cool. Dude, that does it. You don't have to look like you're in a Cybertruck. Most people don't want to drive a Cybertruck. It just looks too ridiculous. So, bravo, Ford. I got to say, it piqued my interest, and I'm not an EV person, but I'm very intrigued to see what they do with it.
So you're not rushing to put your $100 deposit down?
No, I've not done that. No, I haven't done that.
Now, I'm not
anti. I'm just going to say I'm not anti this truck, whereas I do get annoyed by EV products. They've packaged this in a way that it's just going to be effective for people. And what I look at, they brought up a good point with service vehicles. Say you run an appliance company and your furthest distance of service is 50 miles away. Well, if you have a 300 mile range or 225 range, and you plug it in every night when you bring it back to the shop, there's no problem for you. Now you've cut your gas bill and your maintenance bill is less. There's no valves to go in it. There's no pistons to go bad in it. There's no rings to go. It's like there's less things that can go wrong. It's compelling for that utilitarian aspect. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, you're right. So let's get into the same thing with this. A dud or a hit, a swing and a miss or a home run. I would deem success for this thing if there's a 10% to 15% take rate of the normal F-150 volume. That's a huge hit to me.
That's 100,000 units. What you're explaining right now. That's a lot of cars. Or a lot of trucks.
Swing and a miss or a hit?
Hit. I think it's a home run.
I totally agree. I think this is the first time, and I think when we talked about this last night, this is the first time there's been an electric vehicle that doesn't look stupid and costs relatively the same. And you just mentioned that, but that's it. That's the thing. I was watching this with my wife and my kids. They were kind of walking by and watching it, and even they said the same thing. I mean, they're like, "Wait, that's all it costs? That's the same as a regular one." I'm like, "Yeah. I know."
And wait, it doesn't look ridiculous. Like, no,
it doesn't look ridiculous. Like yeah. And
like if you just took that to all the places you take a gas truck right now, no one would think anything of it. They would just think it's a 150. They wouldn't even realize it.
And this is the first time across any electric vehicle this has happened.
Right.
All the electric vehicles right now are too cute and too funky.
Yep.
This is the first mainstream electric vehicle that costs normal and looks normal.
And guess what? The closest normal-looking electric car besides it is the Mach-E.
Yeah.
And the only reason it looks different is because they threw Mustang cues on it. If they didn't have Mustang styling cues, it would look like just a competent, good-looking crossover.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's interesting to see. I think that's why Ford's got a hit on their hands here, because this is the first time. This is the Model T of electric cars.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and say that. Now, okay.
Agreed. And look, I'll be honest. It concerns me because I'm a little bit anti-EV, at least in the way they're perceived currently versus their actual outcomes in the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anti-EV just downright. While they're not as entertaining to drive, they do have their place. I think this is the first one that I look at and I go, I can't even argue with this very much because it looks like it's just a good package.
Right.
And
so let me ask you this. What is the most interesting feature that you saw about this? Like, what's the one feature in this you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting?
Oh, yeah, it's the one no one talked about, Craig. Independent rear suspension.
And why do you say that?
Because that's going to change the truck game. No one has, well, besides the Ridgeline, but no one has a 10,000-pound tow rating body-on-frame pickup truck with independent rear suspension. And if you've been around the independent rear suspension world, they just ride better. They drive better. They handle better.
Absolutely.
And in this thing with 1,800 pounds of weight distributed evenly, 50-50 in the chassis, this is a secret Miata of pickup trucks, man. This is awesome. Like, it's going to handle way better than you think.
Yeah. I'll say
the
feature that I think is really cool. I mean, the frunk's awesome. What you mentioned is awesome. The 50-50 weight balance is awesome. To me, though, because one of my concerns with an electric truck is they talked about the range of 230 on the standard, 300 on the extended range. That's great, and that's well and good. But we all know when you start towing, and other people have done some tests, media outlets have done some tests towing with electric vehicles, it drops even more dramatically than like a gas-powered or diesel-powered vehicle does.
Right.
So, but what gives me reason to think that maybe it might be okay is the reason that it's a problem is the heat that's generated. And now I don't know if this is the only EV that's done this, but this is they've made a point to highlight this, and I know not every EV does this for sure. Their batteries are liquid cooled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so the reason that's important and why that's a big deal is when they do get stressed, when they do get loaded, when you are towing, you have a much lower chance of them getting hot and losing energy quicker. And so that's interesting to me. That may be a game changer as well, and I'm curious to see how that plays out in the real world. So,
well, and to your point, some other EVs do that. Some of the Teslas, I believe the Mach-E does as well in a very small capacity. But I think your Volts don't do that, and your Leafs don't really do that, and not in a large capacity. I'm curious to see, like you just said, how does that apply to a heavy-duty application? Because we've had people movers for a while, but this is now a tower as well. And if this thing drops its range from 300 to 110, that's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, and it might as well not even be a truck anymore. So that's the only way this thing fails, I think. They've got to be able to keep it around the 200-mile range.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see, or at least, to me, at least half. If you can keep it in the half, then okay.
Yeah, because on a gas vehicle, you're going to cut...
Yeah, a gas vehicle loses half. I mean, that's fair. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, me too. Very
All right. So, Brian, our last segment, fun with comments. It's been a while since we've done this. Mine's a long comment. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Mine's short and sweet, okay? And I'll let you wrap up the podcast after that, and I'll quit rambling. This is going to go in the Wayback Machine, Craig. I'm going to use your tool real quick. This is a review that I posted last summer on the 2010 Audi A3 S-Line.
Oh, I know what this one is.
You know what this one is.
Yep.
And it cracks me up. And this is one I filmed. I was down in Houston, and this is actually my old car that my wife decided to steal from me when she drove it one time, and then her parents decided to steal it from her, and so now I have to go visit it to see it. But it's basically a GTI in a tuxedo. It's a fun little car, and so I decided to shoot a review of it. Almost an memory of it because it may be gone one day. Anyways, so this is an older video, but it keeps getting views for some reason. It's doing pretty well. And this is from Malex PCs. That's his handle. And he chimed in and says, "We all going to ignore that he did a launch on a public road right after going through an intersection? What a mad lad. Smiley face, fireball."
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm actually shocked we don't get this more because we do lots of launches on public roads.
Yeah.
We are responsible. We do make sure the coast is clear.
They're
And
often so diluted they're safer than a drag strip most of the time.
right.
In all
But
reality,
yeah,
we're very conscious
I'm
of our
glad
surroundings.
we finally got called out on it, specifically you.
Oh, great, thanks.
And but I do like the part that he mentions. Not that you do not just do it through on a public intersection, a public road, right after you went through an intersection. That's the best part. So,
Well, first of all, I read this and thought, what's the problem? What does the intersection have to do with this at all? It
well,
was
and it's
still
a great
empty when I
comment
did it.
because at first I'm like, oh, he's mad, and then mad lad. Okay,
Yeah,
he's cool with it.
He was cool with it. It's fun. That tells me that our fans are enjoying us having fun too, and that's great. That's the whole point of this.
That is the whole point. So, absolutely. Okay. Well, I've got one a little sooner.
Okay.
This one has an asterisk because it's been edited.
Ooh,
And so
I like
that,
these.
That means someone really put some thought into this. What that means?
Yes,
that means they posted it, reread it, and go, "Ooh, I don't like the way I said that," and they want to retype it. So I don't know what the original one said because I didn't see it. But this comes from Marcia R. 5 days ago on the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport Badlands. And Brian, we may be in danger of getting canceled.
Oh no, I forgot about this one. Okay, I forgot about this one. This is good.
Although I'm curious what the audience thinks because maybe we're okay because it kind of ends okay. So let me just read it. From Marcia R. 5 days ago. You guys had a great overall review of this vehicle, right up until you said it was for, quotations here, city millennials.
Which
I don't
it
remember
is.
saying that. Maybe we did, but we
I
probably
said that.
did.
I said that.
Okay. Oh, so you guys are in trouble again. Not surprised. I'm about to be a retired 59-year-old teacher, and I want this vehicle to travel the United States and enjoy nature at its best. Camping in the back and tailgating with the best of them. Quotes, in quotes here. Youngsters have no clue what us, in quotes, older folk want. I taught my whole life, and contrary to what some people believe, tall in boomers, I'm not sure what that means, tall in boomers.
I think that means tall.
Maybe I'm reading it
in
wrong.
scale
Maybe
of
this is
age.
tail in boomers.
Oh, tail
Tail
end,
in
yeah.
boomers do not always retire with a fat 401k or with a desire to sit out for the rest of our lives at a bridge or mahjong. I don't know how that game is. Mahjong table. I'm looking forward to living the life that I necessarily couldn't when I was being a, quote, responsible adult. P.S. I'm in Texas and so looking forward to traveling this great state and beyond.
Great comment. Well thought out. I want to rate this comment, by the way.
Okay.
This is going to be on the history scale, Craig. This is an 8 out of 10. Easy. Easy.
Okay. So, Marcia R., congratulations. You've been nominated for Comment of the Year and you may win something. So,
you may.
I feel like we're in trouble a little bit at first. Although I don't know why. I don't understand the frustration with the city millennial comment.
Well,
is she assuming that it's not for her?
Well, can I break this down a little bit more and explain my city? Because I'm the one that said that, so I think I should defend this a little bit. Because I read this comment and immediately thought, oh man, this woman feels left out. That we didn't mention her, and I just want to explain to her that this did actually cross my mind when we were filming this car, and I did not say it on purpose, as to not offend anyone. But this car is, man, Ford's not even going to like this. This car is kind of like the PT Cruiser in that it was intended for the youth, but the elder flocked to it because it had a good H point, it was affordable, economical, all these different things. This is great for someone who is in their late 50s, early 60s because it's a very active vehicle. It's easy to live with. It's not crazy expensive. And all those adventures that Marshall wants to do is great. But I'll admit, the marketing department didn't consider Marshall when this car was made. They did target the Instagram demographic. And lo and behold, she gets to enjoy it too. So
Or did they? Because I'm going to point out something. Because
maybe
there's a whole entire brand of cars geared toward the city millennials at one point, and it was called Scion.
Yeah, and city millennials didn't only buy it.
So listen, hang on. So here's exactly what happened. Toyota had a problem, like all car companies do, is the average age of their buyer getting older. And so we got to target the younger crowd. We got to target the younger crowd. We got to target the younger crowd. You know what happened every time they did that? Older people bought it because they thought it was cool. And by the way, the older people are the ones that got the money.
Right.
So the millennials aren't buying any new cars, if we're being honest. So, I don't know.
Well, here's what happens: is City Millennials will buy the base Bronco Sport.
Oh, right.
And Marsha R will get the Badlands and really go see all the sites and get it right with a good one. So
right, the City Millennials will fall for the marketing and buy the base model. It gets them into the brand.
Right.
The older crowd, elderly. I don't want to say elderly. That's bad. The more mature crowd.
Hang on, she did refer to herself as boomer.
Okay,
so I think
the boomer crowd. Let's
just
call it the boomer crowd. The boomer crowd will actually can afford it, so they'll actually get the ones. They'll fall for the marketing and all that it can do, and they want to feel younger. So maybe Ford
by the way,
exactly what they're doing.
They will also use it to its actual purpose, probably more so than others.
Probably, because they got the time.
Yeah, Marsha, great comment. I'm glad you put it in here. In fact, we need to respond to you here. You are entered into our Comment of the Year competition, and since you are in Texas, maybe we can get you something fun if you do win it. That's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. We'll comment to her. We'll reply to her and put a link to this show in that comment. So congratulations. And with that, Brian, we've got another episode in the books, and you always have your tagline of "Thanks for watching."
Thanks for watching this podcast, which makes sense to only you and I, because we're just idiots. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening on us blabber about this, and maybe if you're driving, thanks for riding with us today, or letting us ride with you.
And hopefully you didn't drive off the side of the road and kill yourself. And if you did, well, now I feel really bad. Now I feel really bad.
Just land it, man.
Just land it. Okay.
BreakCheckShow.com
to follow us on everything. Check out us on YouTube, Instagram stories, TikTok, all that goofy stuff. You know where it's at. Check it out. Thumbs up, subscribe. We need it. We want to keep doing this stuff. Also, if there's something you want us to review, or if you have something you want us to review that we can grab, let us know. We want to review it. So, with that, Brian, I don't know how more awkwardly I can land the plane.
Just so we're clear, we don't want to review C5 Vets. Those guys get so upset when we do it every time. But anything else, we want to review it.
Yeah.
That's going to go back. That's going to backfire.
Yeah, what's your buddy's name there? Joey?
Yeah, Joey.
I hope Joey's listening to this.
Oh, God. I hope he's not. That's it. Let's call it.
All right, have a good one. See ya.